I am a pure film buff. And if you ask me what's the greatest film ever made, of course you talk about, you know, Godfather 1 or 2. There's a debate there. Goodfellas, Raging Bull. There's a bunch of Spielberg flicks you can talk about. Pulp Fiction, Boogie Nights. But for me, if you said what film would I want to see for the rest of my life, if I couldn't see no other films, and what film would I want to see for the rest of my life, it's Love Jones, starring Larenz Tate and Nia Long. Love Jones will never top any rom-com, all-time rom-com list. It will never be on AFI's top 100 films of all time. But for me, it's the only film I've ever seen where I said, that's the life I want. That's the type of gal I want. That's the dude I wish I want. That's the type of friend, that's the type of life I want to lead. Like when we talk about Gen Xers, usually when they talk about Gen Xers, especially in film or TV, Gen Xers usually have like reality bites. That's the Ben Stiller flick with a Winona Ryder. And even Hawk, which is still great. And Janine Garofalo. I love reality bites. That's looked upon as Gen X. Slackers. If you look on TV, you have maybe Sex and the City. You might have Friends. But there's very few projects that people look at that might be like, oh, that's Black Gen X right there. Maybe Living Single. But for me, Love Jones is the perfect Black romantic comedy. It's the perfect Black romantic film. And for me, and you have Lady Sings the Blues and Mahogany and all these other flicks. But for me, there's no other Black film that depicts love like this film. And it opened the door. We probably wouldn't have the Best Man, all these Best Man films if it wasn't for Love Jones. You had Brown Sugar. There was a whole Love and Basketball. I love Love and Basketball. We wouldn't have gotten Love and Basketball if it wasn't for this film. And Love Jones just popped out of nowhere because we're coming off, if you're watching this, we're coming off at that time period. So Spike Lee's Spike, right? He had Malcolm X, but then John Singleton rebooted everything with Boys in the Hood, and we had all these hood films, some good, some bad, but a ton of hood films. And it was time for something different. And then Love Jones popped up. And it combined the Black poetry scene, the slam poetry scene that was going on back then. But most importantly, if you look at that film, like everybody was single at that point. Like everybody, this is like post-college, before people started getting married. Very few people at that time had kids. It's different today because everybody got a kid today. But back then, there was very few people who had kids. So you're trying to navigate, trying to figure out your career. You're out of college for a few years. You're thinking about, you may be thinking about marriage with somebody, but you're not sure. And, you're just in the dating scene. You're just trying to figure out. And you have your crew of friends. You have this cool crew of friends that you have. And the thing about that film was great because who else is that? You had Isaiah Washington was in that film when it was cool, Isaiah Washington. Isaiah's still a great actor. I still like Isaiah Washington, but, he's a little kooky now. But, it's before Grey's Anatomy, Isaiah Washington. Lisa Nicole Carson, I think right before Ally McBeal. I love Lisa Nicole Carson. She was great in Jason's Lyric. Haven't seen her in a long time. Bill Bellamy. Bill Bellamy was a player in this film, which is so different from how he was and How to Be a Player. Now, again, How to Be a Player, he was like a funny player type dude, like smooth talking, funny. He was basically Bill Bellamy. But in this film, it was totally different. He's a player, but he was like, I'm trying to steal your girl type player. Oh man, I just can't. And the music in that, you had Lauryn Hill doing The Sweetest Thing. This before before her album, The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. It was almost like a precursor. Like we had no clue what The Miseducation of Lauryn Hill was going to sound like, but we should have known when you heard The Sweetest Thing, because it was her and Wyclef, because Wyclef was playing, I think, the guitar on that. The way the guitar comes on that, and then it just like. I tried to explain. The Sweetest Thing might be X Factor to me is my favorite Lauryn Hill song, but The Sweetest Thing might be number 2. It might be number 2, and that wasn't even on The Miseducation. You got Deion Ferris, like a penny with a hole in it. But the whole thing about Nia's character and Loren's character, how they met, the up and downs in their relationship, because she had a career and he had a career, how they're going to navigate that. And then at the end and in the rain, like people always go to the Notebook. And I feel like, I can't say they took it from him. But it feels, there's that rain scene in the Notebook where, they're talking about their love and all that stuff and they're crying. But Love Jones had that first. Like you really rooted for Larenz and Nia to get together. Like you wanted them to be together. I'm not going to do my usual bashing of Tyler Perry stuff, but I don't know, man. There was no like super drama in like this thing that Nia and Larenz were experiencing in their relationships in that film was just natural. It just felt natural. It wasn't like some crazy storyline, right? It wasn't like Sisters, which I like Sisters, but it wasn't like some crazy storyline. It's just like you rooted for these characters to be successful. Like you wanted to be friends with these people. You wanted these careers like these people. But you rooted for Larenz and Nia to get together. And you knew they were actors, but you kind of wanted for them to be together, right? And Larenz, he's been with his gal for a long time. Like he's probably been with her for like over 20 years. Nia's been up and down, right? My man got her dude, the Boston coach who got busted, he got busted messing around, but when executives wise, and now he's in Houston doing great things, which I thought in Doko, he's doing great things, which I thought he was going to do. But she's been up and down in relationships. And Nia Long at that point, I remember seeing Nia Long in Guiding Light. That's how long ago I've seen Nia Long. But she was younger. And then she was in Friday. It's like, oh, she looks good. She looked great. Craig looking at her. I was looking at her. We all looking at her. And then we get to like Love Jones, man, and we get to The Best Man. Man, Nia Long at that point could have had any dude she wanted. That's how special Nia Long. She's still beautiful. Look, you can tell by this picture. You can tell they both look the same, especially Larenz. Like I don't know if he's drinking. I don't know if he's a vampire or something. Michael B. Jordan got a movie coming out where he's playing a vampire. Maybe it should have been Larenz Tate because this dude he was on a show with Red Fox like back in the late 80s. And yeah, he's a little bit older, but he still looks the same. He still looks like old dog, but menace to society. So we get this Walmart commercial where they have like. They didn't say it was Love Jones, but they did Gilmore Girls, and now we have Larenz and Nia back. And I'm torn because part of me wanted to have a Love Jones reboot, just like they had the Best Man series on Peacock, which is fantastic. But the Best Man over the years, they've made like a couple of Best Man films before they got to the Peacock series. And plus the cast, you saw the cast, the Best Man cast has always been, you saw them all the time. I don't know about the Love Jones cast, or you don't see them as much. Outside of Nia and Larenz, like Isaiah's around, but we don't see him as much. We never see Lisa Nicole Carson. Bill Bellamy's around, but Bill really doesn't act anymore. But I would love to see if they can kind of get that crew back together for a series. Like I think people really are rooting for these characters and see what is it like over 20 some odd years later. Who are they now, right? But there's also a part of me, it's like that was a special time of Black cinema. Like when Tyler Perry took over, I cursed it. The Black rom-com era, after a while, you kind of got tired of it because it was the same storyline after a while, boy meets girl, all that stuff. So I understood when Tyler first popped up, but man, his reign is gone for so long. And if you look at the Black rom-com era, it went from Love Jones to Brown Sugar and then it was over. And that wasn't a long period. It's basically the neo soul period. Man, that was a good time. You had neo soul, hip hop was good, R&B was good. And this was about love. Like the thing I think the kids don't have today, they don't have their Love Jones. They have stuff that they watch, but man, like they don't have this. They watch the stuff of a lot of drama. And yes, there was a lot of drama in Love Jones too, but man, you wanted these people, just like with Love and Basketball, you wanted them to be together. So what did you think about Love Jones? Is it one of your favorite movies? Where would you rank it? Would you want to see another series or you think we should leave it alone? I love that movie. More so than, you can have The Godfather, Goodfellas, but for me, my number one will always be Love Jones with Larenz Tate and the beautiful Nia Long.